Since the first photograph taken with the camera in the 1800s, the device has grown more powerful and accessible as the tools of trade have changed. From early pinhole cameras to Kodak and to SLR cameras, what's different about today's digital tools is that they've enabled photography to become a part of everyday life. While digital photography offers instant snapshots and the ability to bring advanced tools to your fingertips like any other device, surprisingly, it hasn't made past techniques obsolete. But how true is this statement? Are film cameras the new wave in today's photography industry? Hi, I'm Tolani Ogunori, otherly known as Jameto, a professional fashion, stills and street photographer. I started photography as a hobby in 2018, and since then I've been developing my craft and experimenting with different forms of cameras. I've been fortunate enough to work with various creatives, from both young and experienced to social media influencers and artists. It's safe to say I have a genuine passion in learning about photography and reflecting the diverse world we see around us. Which is why I bring you Retrograde, a 3-part series where we explore the timeline of photographic history and invite photographers of all levels to enlighten us on their creative journey and predictions of the industry's future. Today's episode is on all things film photography. Have you ever thought who invented the very first camera and how it all started? Well, you're in luck, as we'll find out a bit later on. But before I touch on that, let me tell you what photographic film really is. Photographic film is a material used in cameras for recording images. It is made up of transparent plastic in the shape of strips or sheets. It has one side covered in light-sensitive silver halide crystals made into emulsion. When a photographic film is exposed to light by a camera, it chemically changes depending on the amount of light exposed by each crystal. These changes create an invisible latent image in the emulsion, which is then fixed and developed into a visible photograph. Let's move on to the historical timeline, shall we?
While photography itself has a long history dating back to the first pinhole cameras of the Middle Ages and the first photographic image being taken with a camera obscura in 1827 by Joseph Nisenfor Nips, the history of film photography comes a little later. The first roll of flexible film was made of paper by George Eastman in 1885, and the first roll film on transparent plastic came along in 1889, but instead was made from highly flammable nitrate film. Having perfected roll film in 1888, Eastman introduced his Kodak to the market, a compact box camera with 100 exposures worth of film priced at $25. The name Kodak came about as Eastman believed products should have their own identity, free from association with anything else. Later, George Eastman offered the Brownie box camera in 1900 similar makeup to this one to target new hobbyists, photographers and children. By 1908, safety film was introduced by Kodak and made of cellulose as a replacement for dangerous nitrate film. Camera designs began to improve over time with more features being offered. Leica's 35mm film camera became the most popular film camera and was released just before World War I in 1913. A few years later, around the late 20s, medium format SLRs like this vintage folding camera became more recognized. A huge improvement in SLRs came into effect during the 1940s with the introduction of the Semflex vintage camera and the eye-level viewfinders. By the time it came to the 1950s, many of the large camera makers we know today entered the SLR market, such as Micro, Doppler, Nikon, to name a few. From that moment forward, other types of films were introduced, like in 1973 when Polaroid invented instant film. This was a significant moment as people can now shoot and receive their photos in less than a minute and without having to take them to get developed. The global market for film cameras peaked in 2003 when nearly 1 billion rolls of films were sold, but by 2012, Kodak, who dominated the scene for centuries, have filed for bankruptcy protection due to the peak of digital cameras and mobile phones. This brought the idea that film camera was dead, but this wasn't necessarily true as sales began to revive the following year.
This leads us into the next segue as we meet 3 established film photographers, Mylo, Jade and Tariq, who will share with us their personal journey into photography and the expectations of the industry's future.
Hi, my name's Jade. I am a portrait and fashion photographer.
I'm Mylo. I'm a photographer, videographer, and director.
My name's Tariq and I'm a portrait photographer from South London.
How I got into film photography is that I was like a digital photographer for like 3 years, and I saw like some of my friends work on film, and I was like, wow, like this is amazing. I need to learn.
I just noticed the aesthetic of their images were different to like regular Instagram pictures. So I remember speaking to my friend Nathan, Like, oh, how'd you get a picture like that, bro? He's like, oh, I shoot on film. And by that time, I didn't know anything about film. So simply through two of my close friends, Nathan and Zero, they must have been shooting on film like 4 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago.
So I got into film photography because lately I've been trying to like make capture memories a priority. So the main reason I got into film photography was just to like kind of capture moments. Just being locked in the house for, however many months it's kind of boring. So I literally just bought a camera and started cycling around London, and yeah, that's where it started.
What's unique about my process in terms of film is that it's much slower than digital, because obviously you have to load the film, like shoot the images and wait for it to like get developed once you send it off to the lab. Whereas digital, you just take as many pictures as you want at one time, or like you can just get a bit trigger happy, but a film really makes you think about the process.
The grain, the color and whatnot, because I feel like you can try to replicate shooting on digital, but it's not really the same and it's not authentic. And the process is like unique in itself. So just getting it scanned and developed right, because you don't know what's like on the other side of the image in a sense.
Okay, this is gonna be subjective again. I would say a con is that for some people, but this is why I like it, but a con is that you can't see what you're taking a picture of.
Con is less expensive.
I usually say like film photography is like an expensive hobby because, getting film developed, scanned, and then buying film also kind of takes a toll after a while. So I'll definitely say that's one of the cons.
Like if you want to take a lot of pictures on it, you're gonna have to just spend the money to buy it, develop it, and like some films, some of your images might come out blank, some of them might come out good, but you never know.
I can take a picture of you and then I just don't know if, I don't know I don't know if it came out right, I don't know if the lighting's right, I don't know. Whereas with digital, I can take it and actually view it, look at it.
Also, not knowing what the picture looks like, right? So when I shoot digital, I know like what the picture looks like. I can take however many shots I want. But when you're shooting on film, you're kind of limited to 36 to 24 shots. So I would say that's also a con.
A pro is like, it's like an anticipation of like finding out, oh, is my image nice? Is it well lit? So yeah, it's difficult, but it's at the same time, it's really nice to have that like feeling in your chest that, oh, how my picture's gonna look.
I'll say the pros are just that vintage aesthetic that comes with it. Because that's definitely one of the things that drew me towards film photography, just like the grain and the colors and whatnot. And also just like when you get film developed, right, the anticipation, like knowing like, okay, this picture might turn out good, it could turn out blurry. You never know what it's gonna look like in the end. So definitely that also.
Pros are the same things that I said that were cons. So for me, I like the fact that it's not instant gratification. I like the fact that not every picture comes out the way I wanted it to, because sometimes it wasn't supposed to. It looks better the way it came out, you know what I mean? Like there's some pictures that I've taken and I've wanted it to be perfect. I wanted the lighting to be this. And the way it came back, it wasn't that, but the version the film gave me, it gave me something that I didn't expect, but I still like.
I feel like film cameras are trendy at the moment because people wanna like have a way to like store their memories in like a timeless way. And I feel like rather than digital film, it's like it's more of an emotional process, and yeah, I feel like that's why nowadays it's like got a resurgence.
So for me, one reason would be TikTok, right? So I see a lot of this is your sign to get a film camera in a sense. So that's one reason I feel like it's definitely trending. Another reason I would say is because same as in fashion, like vintage stuff is starting to come back in fashion, right? So I would say that's the same thing for film cameras and whatnot.
I feel like anything that's a trend is in a circle. So it goes around and it's gonna come back. Give it a couple of years, it'll be popping now and then film might die down, but then you'll see people get used to whatever digital is and then they're gonna wanna go back to film again. So it's just I see it as a cycle, but the aesthetic of the pictures, the way they look, they're very retro, which is, some people see as cool. So I know a lot of the kids or the younger teenagers nowadays, they're living that life, they're out with their friends, they want to document things, and you can have a camera, you can document it with your iPhone, but I feel like that film pushes it that extra mile for the feel that you're going for. So the way film just looks in party environments, it just looks so cool. It feel the fun from the picture, you know what I mean? But
So this one, I got shooting at Canary Wharf at sunset. And for a while, I kind of struggled like with shooting at night and kind of letting light in with my camera. So this one, I'm just happy that it turned out this way because a lot of the time when I shoot at night, the pictures come out so rubbish, and this one turned out good, so I was happy about this one. And then this one, I'm happy about because this was the first time I kind of used my camera to shoot portraits, and yeah, it just looks vintage, and I'm just happy with the way it turned out. And then this piece, I was just happy. I was using like a new film stock, so I was using Portrait 800, and I've never used it before, so I was kind of skeptical about how the pictures would turn out, but for me, it turned out amazing, so.
Okay. Basically, this is my friend Shaz and her sister Ida, and like we just were like, oh, do you want to like meet up and do a shoot? I've shot with Shaz before, and like she's just an amazing model, and like she knows what she's doing, she knows the angles, and I was like, do you want to do a shoot together? And yeah, we went to Regent's Park, and like, yeah, loved these images. Yeah, I had been there before for a previous shoot, and I was like, oh wow, this like location is like quite decent. And then we found like a nice fountain area with like a very, very nice section of wood plants around it. So I was like, we definitely need to shoot here. And the shoot was probably like 3 hours long, maybe more. We were literally in the blazing summer heat of England, and yeah, we just persevered through, and then afterwards we just chilled and like had food afterwards. But yeah, so here's like examples from my point and shoot, because I wasn't really using my SLR until I felt comfortable with it. But here's like Mina. These are all pictures from my point and shoot, so I didn't use my SLR, but I feel like they came out really nice, even though they weren't on like a manual camera. Compared to the digitals, I feel like these are some of like the digitals. Like the film photos came out really like timeless, and like it had that nice grain. Yeah, that's one of my favorite shoots as well.
The one in the field was more, it was set in advance. Like I had thought about the imagery and where he's gonna be sat, what she's gonna be doing, because this went along with the mini movie that I made as well, which is already out. But like that one, I really had to choose what she's wearing, how I wanted Nathan, shirt on, shirtless, what vibe we're going for. The film, I had to decide what film I'm using. I wanted that warmth, so I went for like a 160. Even though you can edit in Lightroom, I wanted it to be as close to as possible before I even have to touch it, you know what I mean? So yeah, with that shoot, I really had to use my head more. Instead of just point shoot, it was, okay, we're gonna do it this day, guys. We need a stool, we need a dress, we needed this. Yeah, we need that. Like everyone, let's go here. And it's the same, like there was another picture of everyone, but this one was candid, but I was on the same day of everyone at the lake. This was shot on film, but this is in the mini movie I made, not this image, but this setting.
So that's what we have for today. If there's one thing to take away from this episode, is that film photography isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Amateurs to advanced photographers are still fascinated by the way in which this field works. So get out there, buy or rent whatever film camera your heart desires, and get snapping.